Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is the place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So, with a channel called Nightwing Stand, it is only right that I'd comment on the latest developments when it comes to the character of Starfire. And I think there's been a pretty huge development when it comes to that character. Meg the Stallion, who is notorious for her ability to kill every cosplay costume she shares on the internet, and is also a super talented hip hop artist and one of the biggest rap stars in the world, just cosplayed or revealed her Halloween costume for this year and is DC Comics Starfire. Now, why is that significant? One, Meg is a superstar, like I said. James Gunn himself actually shared her costume, and I recently made a video on LeBron James sharing the fact that he used to be a comic book head and was a big Batman fan and was wondering how he could get back into comic books. So part of why I'm making this video, outside of the fact that Meg the Stallion looks great in this cosplay, is the fact that I think we are at a point where DC Comics could really capitalize on a lot of this free publicity, unlike the way they did when Marvel was able to redefine what comic book movies were and sort of bring in the golden age of superhero movies and blockbuster films where they're creating billions and billions and billions of dollars of box office receipts, while DC suffered through reboots, restarts, failure after failure. I think the only $1 billion movie that they had that was a part of the DCEU was, ironically, Aquaman. And the only other one was The Joker, which turned around and became the biggest sequel flop of all time when it comes to comic books. So, again, part of this is seeing how they could capitalize on it. I think DC, and we all know this, if you're online, if you go to any online forum, you're like, wow, people really love DC characters. Like, most people have them as their avatar. As you can see, my YouTube channel is called Nightwing Stand. I have a Nightwing statue behind me. I have a Robin toy, that's Guy Gardner right there. So it seems like DC's really popular. A lot of people grew up on them because of the animated shows. Teen Titans, which is the team that Starfire is a part of and which she debuted, Teen Titans Go has been going on for like 10 years. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things where you're like, well, it's so popular. But wait, why is it number 2 when it comes to the comic books? When you look at Marvel Comics, Spider-Man's really popular. But if you look at all those other characters before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Iron Man, Captain America, a lot of them were C-level characters. So how is it that Marvel has been able to stay on top, whether it be through media when it comes to the films, and then also the comic books? So I think DC is at a point where obviously you have people like LeBron James, Meg the Stallion, sharing their passion around these characters, and some others as well. I'm sure there's a lot of great celebrities also sharing this and popular influencers and stuff like that. But we're at a point where next year you have Superman, which is coming out. You have DC All In, which is going on right now. You have the Absolute Universe. So we are at a point where I think if DC really sort of puts their foot on the gas when it comes to the comic books and what's going on in animation, you got Creature Commandos, Dynamic Duo coming up. They can really take over that number 1 spot and be aggressive. And I want them to be aggressive. As a DC fan, I am tired of being number 2. I need to be number 1. Let's turn this into a sport thing. But yeah, I think DC has the ability to be that number 1 publishing house when it comes to the comics. And then also when it comes to film and TV, I think they were number 1 at one point when Marvel wasn't really doing anything. But it still was scattered. I think what James Gunn is bringing is something of a unified approach. And I was at the Creature Commandos panel at New York Comic Con. So even though you have this vision of what DC Studios is going to bring in the film, TV, animation, and game world, none of them are going to have an impulse style, which I think is really important to sort of making sure that it's really creator driven and it's story driven, so that we have a generation of readers, viewers that love these characters. And I know I just talked about in my last video about Alan Moore sort of talking about the effect of fandom on society, which has had its negative effects. It is cool to just kind of be passionate about these things and find community in it. And I think DC Comics has the opportunity to capitalize on things like Meg the Stallion cosplaying as Starfire and really sort of create positivity around it, unlike the way people reacted to Meg twerking in She-Hulk. Yeah. Well, like I said, I just wanted an excuse to talk about this costume and cosplay and tie it into why I love DC Comics and why I hope DC is able to turn it around with James Gunn's new universe and also DC All In and Absolute. So, yeah, let me know what you think of Meg's cosplay, what you think about DC, their strategy. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.
Discrimination to nerds everywhere, okay?